In the year 2150, the world had changed drastically. Humans had made contact with an interdimensional alien species. Their only form of communication was through a certain type of plant, called the Zella plant. This discovery had opened up a whole new world of possibilities. Elizabeth, the top human horticulturist, was at the forefront of it all. For the past 10 years, Elizabeth had been communicating telepathically with the alien's top horticulturist, named Zorax. Despite never meeting in person, they had formed a strong bond and their conversations were filled with mutual respect and understanding. As the years went by, Elizabeth found herself confiding in Zorax more than anyone else. She never thought she would find such a deep connection with someone she had never seen. But everything changed when the door between dimensions finally opened. Elizabeth was filled with excitement and anticipation as she prepared to meet Zorax for the first time. She had imagined him to be a towering, green creature with tentacles and multiple eyes. But when she finally laid eyes on him, she was in for a surprise. He was tall, green, and yes, he had tentacles. But he was also the most handsome being Elizabeth had ever seen. She couldn't take her eyes off of him as he approached her with a warm smile. "Elizabeth, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person," he said telepathically. Elizabeth was momentarily taken aback. She had never expected him to be able to speak through his mind as well. But she quickly composed herself and replied, "Likewise, it's an honor to meet you." The two of them spent the whole day exploring each other's worlds. Elizabeth showed Zorax the beauty of Earth's plant life while he introduced her to the wonders of his dimension. As they talked and laughed, Elizabeth couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity with him. It was as if they had known each other for years. But as the day came to an end, Zorax dropped a bombshell on her. "Elizabeth, I have something to ask you," he said nervously. Elizabeth's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't imagine what he could possibly want to ask her. But before she could say anything, he continued, "I know we have been communicating for a long time and I feel a strong connection with you. In my culture, when two beings have a strong bond, it is customary for them to get married. I would be honored if you would become my mate." Elizabeth was speechless. She had never imagined that he had been courting her all this time. Elizabeth was shocked and confused. She had never thought of their telepathic conversations as courting, and she certainly wasn't ready to marry someone she had just met. After a few moments of silence, Elizabeth struggled to gather her thoughts. "Together? But, we've never met before. How could you think we've been courting?" Zorax's luminous green lips curled into a tender smile. "Through our shared connection, my dear, I have felt your love grow just as mine has. In my culture, this is how we court, through the deepest bond of souls. I assumed, perhaps foolishly, that you felt the same." Elizabeth couldn't help but feel her heart flutter at his confession. While she had not anticipated such a development, the sincerity in his words resonated with her. Their connection had transcended boundaries and forged an unbreakable bond. But marriage? It was a bold leap into the unknown. I care deeply for you," Elizabeth admitted, her voice laced with uncertainty. "But marriage? That's a big commitment. I need some time to think about it. This is a big decision and I want to make sure it's the right one for both of us." But Zorax was persistent and explained that in their culture, telepathic communication was seen as a form of courtship, and he had fallen deeply in love with Elizabeth. He had been waiting for the door between dimensions to open so he could finally be with her. Elizabeth was torn. She couldn't deny the strong connection and feelings she had for Zorax, but she also couldn't imagine leaving her life on Earth behind to live on a different planet. She needed time to think, but Zorax was not willing to wait. He wanted to marry her right away and take her back to his planet. Feeling overwhelmed and confused, Elizabeth made the difficult decision to decline his proposal. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving her family, friends, and everything she had ever known behind. Zorax was heartbroken, and their telepathic communication became strained. Months went by, and Elizabeth couldn't shake off the guilt and sadness she felt for hurting her closest friend. She tried to reach out to him through the Zella flower, but he didn't respond. One day, she received news that Zorax had passed away due to a medical condition. Elizabeth was devastated. She realized too late that she had let her fear and doubts get in the way of true love. She regretted not taking the chance and marrying Zorax, and she couldn't help but wonder what could have been if she had just said yes. From then on, Elizabeth dedicated her life to studying the Zella flower and finding a way to communicate with the Zorax's race without the need for telepathy. She never forgot him and the love they shared, and she hoped that one day, they would be reunited in another dimension.